traveled more than a couple of hours? Please raise your hand. You guys are amazing. What an amazing group of people. How many farmers and ranchers, please raise your hand. Do that again, please. Oh, wow. Okay. How many have heard me speak before? I am so sorry. I am so sorry. But we'll get through it. I saw your face when you said, Ray's going to talk for 2 hours on soil health. And you go, whoa. No, we're going to do about an hour and 15 minutes, open it up for questions and answers. But I'm going to take you around the world and tell you about something absolutely incredible that's happening all over the world. I remember when this soil health movement started, and I'm going to tell you, I think I need my clicker, and I don't think did I bring my bag? Anybody see my bag? It's okay, I'll do it right here. Oh, it's right here. Well, it's already starting off well. Yeah, that's Ray. And so, and everybody, my wife wonders how I get from city to city. In fact, she was going to get me a T-shirt and says, would you please, if you see this poor man wandering, can you and leave an address and please send him home safely? So here I am. I'm going to take you across the journey. You can kind of look for that little red thing for me, and then we'll do that. But I'll move this. And so I'm going to tell you when this started. For me, it started in 2007. And before I start, I'm going to ask one of my mentors that really helped me a lot. And I'm so glad that he's doing better health-wise. Can you please raise your hand, Jay Fiera and his wife, Kathy? Please, Jay, raise your hand. He's... Thank you, Jay and Kathy. And most people don't understand that without an amazing woman like my wife that's taking care of the ranch, this could not happen. So women, you are the leaders in the soil health regenerative system. And I'm so thankful. In fact, women were the first ones to bring biology into the thought process. Like Dr. Elaine Ingham, thank you. I'm so glad God created women. And so thank you for that. In fact, I'm going to start off with that kind of story, and I think this is really important because I'll never forget this, and it's actually happened in the Dakotas. I was asked to go speak at a particular conference, and it's embedded in my mind, and I still have, when I talk about it, I still get tears about it because this is a great summation and a real true story about the ag model that we have currently, the industrial ag model. And it starts off like this, a little closer.
Keep talking.
Oh, okay.
Come over here.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what are you going to do?
You can keep talking.
Oh.
Turn around 1 second.
Uh-oh, they're not on. He's touching me. Yeah. He's touching me. Thank you, babe. And so this is how it goes. I was asked, I think it was a conference in North Dakota. Finished doing a presentation like I just did, like I'm doing right now. And this lady walks up to me, and she's got tears. And I said, uh-oh, Ray, you said something wrong. You said something insensitive. And I said, I'm in trouble. She walks up close to me and she says, Ray, do you hunt? My mind is racing. She's got tears in her eyes. I'm envisioning myself running down this field, getting shot at, because she's asking me, do you hunt? And I said with trepidation, yeah, sort of. And she says, no, Ray, you don't understand. I want you to come and talk to my husband and the 3 brothers. They farm over 5,000 to 7,000 acres. And after I heard you talk, it really bothered my soul. I said, what happened? When you talked about regeneration and how you mimic nature and you bring all these things together, the animals and the cover crops and everything, do you know what we did? We got all the fences out. We took everything down, and now every day I have red equipment in front of my yard. And with tears streaming down her face, she says to me, Ray, I'm now having to work outside the house to provide medical care for my family. This was emotional. This is the emotional journey that we've had all over the world on how the lamentation and the suffering of the farmers, and that's what changed me and turned me years around. This is where we're at, and I am afraid that this year is even going to be worse with the high interest rates, corn at 4 something. But it gives me the impetus to be here today to let you know that the regenerative movement is growing. My journey started in 2007. I have been spewing out lots of carbon, flying all over the world to save the world. All of us here are doing the same thing. It's not just me. It's you that came here also. Now, you see that map that I have? Can you guys hear me? That is, I've been in every state, from Hawaii to Puerto Rico, Alaska, teaching soil health. Now I have branched out. I just recently got back from Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Uganda, and United Arab Emirates. And there's something absolutely phenomenal happening globally. And I'm going to share that with you because I'm going to tell you I have hope now. And if you would have asked me halfway through my career, I did not have hope. But now I have hope. These 4 things I'm going to talk to you about are the 4 common things I see as I travel everywhere. I pick up patterns, as we should, as we're looking at the natural system. I'm going to talk to you about these 4 things that I think that are very, very important. And there's always more, of course. But the first one I want to talk to you about is the power of life. I think in my years and years of education, and it's just not me, but many of the producers do not understand and embrace the power of life. And I'm going to talk about that. And the other part is how everything is connected. Every one of us is connected, and we're all a collective one. That is a very hard concept for farmers to understand, and anybody in the natural system. And you would think that ecologists would embrace that. And sometimes they get caught up in the reductionism, and they forget the connectedness of things. Number 2, the soil is alive, just like you and I. It's powerful. Once you understand the soil is alive, it changes your life. You will never go back and look at your soil ever the same. This should be taught to every child in high school, elementary, all over the world. We need to show that it's alive and it's not dirt. We'll talk about that. Number 3, approach is critical. It is critical. The way you approach the natural system is so important. How many of you guys are married in here? Raise your hand. If you would have approached your mate when you were dating her, do you think you'd be married? Heck no. Same thing with the farm and ranch. If you approach it wrong, you will go broke. We're going to talk about that. Approach is everything. And the approach is determined by your paradigms and your filters. The last one. I think this is so important. Regeneration starts with your heart and mind. Unless you have changed the way you think, the farm and ranch will never change. And you know what the common pattern I see with some of the best regenerative farmers? The mind and heart has changed. We're going to talk about that. But let's go quickly through history and let's find out what's happened in the past with agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, that used to be vegetated. Who would have thought that was once vegetated? That is an image taken by an artist's rendition of Saudi Arabia that was once vegetated. How do they know that was once vegetated? Archaeology shows stones have carvings of giraffe, gazelles, elephants in the system. How in the world did so much land become so degraded? What happened? Was it a climate change? What happened? Was it humans? Could it be all the above? I grew up in beloved New Mexico. Our family's been there for 15, some generation, for 500 years. And there's a book called Collapse by Jared Diamond. That is a picture that you see on the right of Chaco Canyon. There's a tree there that is a pine forest. That one tree, they called it the tree of life. They claimed that that whole area was once vegetated with pine. Now it is absolute desert. See, many have said, well, it's the Europeans who do all these things destructive. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's called the human. We all have been guilty of not knowing the resource and not connected. What's the Anasazi, which I'm part Native American and part Anasazi there, they said that a good part of it is they overbuild, build too many kivas, stripped and changed the local climate. According to the book of Collapse, which is very, very good. When I was in the Peace Corps, I got to see the Mayan ruins in Guatemala. They just found a new temple network, and they wonder, what happened to the Mayans? What happened to them? Well, the huge stones, some of the archaeologists said, to make them white and to get that size, you had to burn a lot of trees and change the local climate. But another thing we never talk about is the Mayans were known to go into local tribe areas and take people slaves, kill, violence, and offer human heart sacrifices. It has been very interesting to me that I've seen a common pattern where there's the moral degradation of the land, of the people, the land quickly follows. So what do I think that's going back in history? Number one, I think it's being so disconnected and greedy with the land and demanding more and treating it like a slave. But these are the tools that have been used through history: tillage, overgrazing, deforestation, fire, and overbuilding. Doesn't it sound similar today? Now, this is a very controversial slide that I put there on purpose. Remember, I worked for NRCS for 30 years. I retired in 2016, 2017. That was the mission of our agency, to be able to eliminate this problem. We were designed to do this 87 years ago. Look at the dates of those. But look at the slide on the right where I say organic system. Because there's a lot of controversy unless I hear from when I go everywhere and they say that unless it's organic, it cannot be regenerative. And I'm here to tell you, most of the planet was destroyed in an organic system. There was no chemicals. It's amazing to me how we as humans love to blame tools. But my wife tells me, husband, look in the mirror, you're the problem. We are the problem. Let me show you, this happened in 2019. This is Texas. So what? This is Texas, it's not here. It's interesting how humans look. It's there, but it's not here. How about Mexico? And how about this year, in 2023, Illinois? The last words of David Brandt when he called me, he was so upset. David called me and he says, Ray, why is this still happening? There's no excuse. We know how to fix this. Over 8 or 9 people died in that incident. Those were the last words I got to hear my beloved friend David Brandt speak to me. He was so upset. If any man had passion for the land and for the people, it was David Brandt. When I fly all over, this is what I see. I drove here 8 hours and I saw one cover crop. One cover crop. 87 years we've been doing this. Look at that picture that I took in 2009. One green spot. And then there's a huge argument about climate change. Well, ladies and gentlemen, is it possible but that we have diminished our soil so bad? Because see, you cannot have climate without soil and plant. Cannot have it. Look at the urbanization. I'll never forget the data when first I was exposed to urbanization in New Jersey. They did a study, NRCS, and they did a bulk density. That means the pore space in front of a lawn. A lawn in New Jersey had the same bulk density as concrete. People were young youths were getting killed playing football, not so much for the contact, but when they landed the ground, that was so hard. See, what we did is when we created our subdivisions, we stripped the upper soil, compacted it, and never remediated it. And that's why when you have a dead tree and water runoff, it's not just the concrete. It's not just the way we do farming, but it's the way we build our cities. And also, how many of you have heard rain shadowing created by the city because of the heat it reflects off the concrete? So I started doing more research, and I started finding out that over 20 to 30% of our land has no plants on it. It's denuded, and desertification is growing. I grew up in an area in the valley at 5,700 feet. We used to get 30 inches of snow. Now I saw a precious creek growing up in northern New Mexico go dry that I thought would never go dry. Do you remember when the massive forest fires? And one of the administrations blamed the Forest Service for not doing their job. Blamed the Forest Service. But is it possible, the way we farm in Iowa, does it have an impact on the forest? I would argue it does, and I'll explain that in a second. This is what's happening right now. We either get too much rain or we're too dry. Last year, in an area like in southwest Missouri, I have a 155-acre farm. I'm supposed to get 47 inches. I had no rain all summer. This summer it was dry again. My streams should be flowing right now, and they're not. And it's not just me, but every one of you see it. All the ones that you walk and you read the land and you're there all the time. But it's amazing to me that we don't connect the dots and bring it back to this. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about carbon, but the reality is global ignorance, global disconnectedness. See, the land is naked. It's naked because it doesn't have its covering. The covering is the living plant. It's hungry because the ancient people knew that the plant is the mouth of the soil. It's the way it eats. It's starving through most of the globe. Thirsty because the water is running off. No plant, no aggregation, no infiltration. Running a fever. Scientists now, a great article given to me by a friend named John Sticka said they finally figured out evapotranspiration. They could never figure out the math, why it was out of balance. Could not figure out, is it the heat heating the molecules that's creating the evapotranspiration, but it's still not coming out. A new research paper says it's not just heat. The new research paper says it's light also. Light with huge photons. Photons of energy also causing evapotranspiration. So you know the first thing that came to mind? The albedo effect. When plants do so many great things and change how the light responds. But when you have land that's bare, we're not only losing through the heat, but the intense light that is happening on a global scale. In the Kiss the Ground documentary, a hydrologist who taught me, he says, look, 40% of our rain comes from inland, from growing plants. 60% comes from the ocean. If you go all the way from Minnesota all the way to Arkansas, down to Mississippi, it looks like the moon and there's no living plants. Could that have an impact in our climate more than carbon? I would argue yes. Recent research paper that was written, Scientific American, was amazing. Sky rivers, how the moisture in the climate is increasing. In fact, this is really not a recent discovery, because in 1979, when the Carter administration asked, please, scientists, go check Los Alamos Laboratory, which is close to where I grew up, Lawrence. President Carter asked him, could you please research about the CO2 gas going up, and is it going to have an impact? They did the research, and sure enough, CO2 was going up. But one thing that was never, ever mentioned in the report, but it was alluded to, that there was a gas more powerful, larger by logarithmic, larger by amount. It never was mentioned. Water vapor. Where's the water supposed to be? The ocean, the atmosphere, and the soil. One of the largest reservoirs in the world is the soil, more than all the rivers and lakes put together. It has to enter the soil first before it goes into the river, into the lake. This is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. When I go onto a farm for the first time, in fact, this picture actually comes from Brazil. These are the same two soils. All of our farms and ranches came from the left. It all came from the forest and the prairie. But depending on your practices, it looks like on the right. When I walk on a farm in operation, I always assume the soil on the right until I am proven different with a shovel. The shovel will tell me, and you know the first thing I do when I walk into an operation, I go to a grass waterway, the fence, maybe even a gravesite. Yeah, sometimes there's a gravesite by the field. And when I show them, the farmer, I said, look at the dead do a better job than we are. The soil in the graveyard is healthier than the field. I did that in Brazil. Went to the fence row to show the sugarcane guys what's going on with their field. If you want to know a quick standard, your neighbor's not your standard. Walk to the wooded area. Compare yourself on your no-till system and see how good you are. A shovel will tell you a lot. So, this is the problem. It's the understanding how we use our tools, ladies and gentlemen. Tillage side, overhanging, too much pesticides, over-fertilizing, over-spraying. And the worst thing about it is we're going broke with our own tools. Who would have thought farming, one of the most toughest jobs in the world, the most awesome job, out there with God's creation every day, and yet has the highest suicide rate of the top 5 careers in the United States, farming and ranching. What's going on? See, really the blessing of the land should flow through the farmer and ranch and go to the local community. That's where we get to interface with God's creation. And I don't think most people understood this, but for many, many years, theologians have known that the first temple of worship was really the Garden of Eden. And Solomon's temple was laced with imagery of the Garden of Eden. Folks, we have been at the temple all our lives because we love it. Every human can appreciate beauty. It's embedded in our DNA. This is what's happening. and people get frustrated. Look at that graph showing inputs since 1926 to 2006. Where is the wealth of the land going to? It's going to those who make the tools. The chemical companies, the fertilizer companies, the equipment companies. Am I opposed to those companies? Nope. That's not what I'm opposed to, ladies and gentlemen. I'm opposed when all the wealth goes to them. It does not go to you first. You took all the risk. You stay up late at night and working and putting the long hours to make sure you make it. But I can tell you, many people they're sending their kids to college, and where our farmers and ranchers struggle every day. It's not enough. The rural communities are also suffering. Drugs, jobs, desiccation of our rural America. I drive it. I've been in every state, and I see little towns dried up that no longer exist. What happened? It went to the oligarchs or the technocrats. See, ladies and gentlemen, there are really two groups of people. The extreme wealthy, and then there's the rest of us. Am I opposed to them? No. I'm opposed that rural America is drying up. Ladies and gentlemen, mindset. Something happened to me when I was a district conservationist. It was in 2001, 2002, and I had a paradigm shift. Please understand, I went to school for 8 years. I was taught agronomy and soil science for 8 years. And I said, something's wrong. Why are my farmers going broke? And why is every time the river, the Snake River, which separates Idaho, and I was a DC in the Oregon side, why did that river turn to chocolate on my border? And then when we heard a newspaper publish that 2 dogs in the Brownlee Reservoir died because of the algal blooms and killed them, I was getting very, very depressed. I think that in my 40s, was going through a midlife crisis. Why couldn't the farmers with 500 prime acres of some of the best water in the world, some of the best soils, and cannot bring their son into the operation? And they had to go work for NRCS. That bothered me. It wasn't until going to Gabe Brown's ranch in 2007 and reading Ellen Savory's book on holistic management, something traumatic happened. Ellen Savory's book and going to Gabe's and being around Jay Fuhrer, I started to realize, oh my goodness, I have been a product of reductionist science. And I have been taught reductionist science since high school through college. In fact, every one of us have been taught reductionism. What is reductionism? Reductionism is you look at each individual pieces in isolation. And rarely do you go back and say, hold on, let's look at the collective whole. Holism forces you to look back. How is everything connected and how does it work? Do you know what other industry is reductionist? The human health. When you walk into the doctor, they send you to the brain doctor, to the ear doctor, to the knee doctor. They break you up into pieces. And rarely do we have a professional that knows the collective whole as he works. And don't put it back into pieces as the collective. Reductionist science has been brutal on this because it does not work well for the human body when it comes to chronic disease and to healing the land. Now, please, we need reductionism. Sometimes we need to reduce things to specifics so we can learn more about it. But you have to peel your eyes, you have to go back and look at the collective whole, or you'll miss it. You need to understand how it works together as a collective. When I work with producers, I can see the brutality of reductionism. How can I know? Look at the land. Because if they had a holistic thought process, they would know that they would cover the land because it feeds the microbes, brings the insects, brings the rain, connects things together. If you ever get a chance, go on YouTube, listen to this man, Dr. Russell Acuff. He taught me systems thinking. Listen to him. We work in systems. You are a system. Here's the other book I recommend, an audiobook. That book changed my life, plus the people I was exposed to. I will never look at things again from a reductionist point of view. Let me give you an example of reductionism. When I go all over the place, I go up to northern to Minnesota to Wisconsin, the first thing, right, Tony? It's too cold here. Cover crops don't work. Oh, no, Ray, this is Arizona. It's too hot. Cover crop, besides, there's no microbes in Arizona. I had a state con say, Ray, well, we don't want you to come here because we don't really think there's microbes here. I go, really? Wow. Microbes are everywhere. They're on your skin. They're part of it. You're 90% microbial. They're in deserts. They're everywhere. How about here? Oh, yeah, it's too wet, Ray. Covers won't work here. Too cold, too wet, too dry. This is my response to them. Interesting. They're doing no-till in Canada. They're doing it in Arizona, Afghanistan, Louisiana. And the first response I tell people, when they first tell me that, I look at them and I said, by the way, is your farm in Mars? Is it from the moon? You mean you have no soil microbes on your land? That's what we have taught. Distinction, delineation, but how is it connected? How are these regions connected? Life, biology. It works on every corner on the planet. I don't care if it's dry, wet, it does not matter. Microbes function the same way. Interesting, I flew all the way to Hawaii, walked off into the field, farmer that was doing potatoes, he was tilling the snot out of it using fumigants, and I looked at him and I said, you have nematode problems, don't you? How did you know? I'm the soil whisperer. No, that's not what I told him. I said, you got porous, you got sandy soils, you're tilling too much, you're spraying too much, now you send the nematode ecology out of balance. You know the difference between the soils in Hawaii and here? They speak Hawaiian, but they still do the same thing. It's amazing what we have taught our people. Me too. I used to think forest, my farm. The prairie, my farm are different. No, they're not. They all require they run on biology. They run on life. First four things when I walk in an operation, besides bringing up the shovel, four things, ladies and gentlemen, that come right out of my mouth first, or I look. First thing, how much bare ground is in that operation and how long do you leave that ground bare? How much are you capturing photosynthesis every square inch of your farm and ranch? You're thinking about buying the next ranch and you're not even maximizing of the photosynthesis you have on your operation. And you cannot have photosynthesis and you cannot have a water cycle without the living plant. How much is infiltrating? Shovel. And if I have no photosynthesis going on, no aggregation, because there's no water, the water has to go in the soil, then there's no nutrient cycle. And the last one, we all have this, don't we? Phone. How good is this without software? Worthless. Do you know what the software of the planet is? Biodiversity. Insects, animals, humans, plants. And guess where I find the most monoculture ever? On the farm. And do you know what the biggest struggle I have is getting farmers to do more biodiversity. The planet runs on biodiversity, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'll show you the power of life. I love this because I've seen that growing up in the West. We saw that all the time. How in the world can that plant survive that compaction layer? And I tell producers, now that's compaction. First farmer says, oh, well, how do you fix that? Well, I bring out my tractor. More diesel, let's break it. I said, no. The most powerful thing you can put on your farm is a living cover that leaks acids, breaks it up, feeds biology, opens and creates the pore. Life is the most powerful thing. In a group at the National No-Till Conference, I was the last speaker and I asked the producers, how many of you religiously do a cover crop? At a room this big of 300 to 400 people, audience, what percentage do you think rose their hand? Anybody have a guess? Less than 5%. And these are no-tillers who are supposed to learn and understand the powerful biology. You can hear it everywhere. In the last 15 or 20 years, you must have to be in Iraq to understand that they're talking about biology. There has been an incredible paradigm shift in this country on biology. There is an image from Australia. That is a calcium gypsum bed. How come it's green on the top? That's a salts, folks. That is a salts. Ocean of salt. And how come it's green? Because we don't understand how powerful life is. Now we're ready for connectedness. I definitely recommend this book called Chaos by Edward Lorenz. Beautiful book. If you want to know how everything's intimately connected, one of the most powerful books I've ever read. And this is how it goes. How many of you have heard of the concept of the butterfly effect? How many of you understand it? Either do I, but it's awesome. I've been reading on quantum physics and the butterfly effect for a long time. And just blows me away. And this is how the concept is. Can the flapping of the wings in Brazil of a butterfly, moving the tiny molecules under its wing, can it create a tornado in Kansas? And the answer is yes, it can. Why? Because of quantum entanglement and how everything is intimately connected. How did Lorenz, a brilliant meteorologist, brilliant mathematician from MIT, and this was the computers back then. Does that look familiar, Jay, our computers? Maybe a little bit of that. So one day, the computer was going crunching away. Computer goes down. Dr. Lorenz goes over there and he goes, oh my goodness, because he was running a computer model with 12 parameters of the weather, barometric pressure, and he was running his computer model to predict the weather. He says, well, I don't have time. I'll just move the decimals. I'll just set it to the printer settings. Instead of setting it at 6 decimals, I'll set it 3 decimals. Did that one part in 1,000 change the outcome of the prediction? And the answer was yes. That one part in 1,000 changed everything. whether he got sun or he predicted rain. What does that have to do with farming? What it has to do with your life? Everything. One tiny thing you do in your operation can have a huge impact. You moved the cows an hour a day earlier and you didn't let them overgraze. Huge impact. All of us have experienced the butterfly effect. I'm going to tell you, if I hadn't met my wife at the right time, I would not be able to be here with you today. Because I have an amazing wife who upholds and runs the ranch and farm, and she's brilliant. Butterfly effect. If I would have not gone to the private school in the 6th grade, instead of going to the public school because of my big mouth shot and killed, I would not be here. All of you have experienced the butterfly effect. It happens every day in your life. Does it make a difference if you put that cover? Changes everything. It is powerful how things are so connected. Do you know that the weather is so complex they have to use satellite imagery and they have to run all kinds of computer models, and they're getting better? That's because they do 100 runs of different models and they still don't get it right. After 3 days, it's worthless. We live in a very elegant and complex world. This is why we have to choose the power of life, folks, and use it on our ranch and farm. Imagine if we had no plants on our whole planet. This is the way it would look. There'd be no climate. Why am I pounding so much on plants? Because I think it's one of the quickest ways we can heal our planet very quickly. And I'm going to show you some of the things that scientists are thinking of doing that is absolutely frightening to fix the climate. See, the reason I figured it out, I am not smarter than a 5th grader. Is when we make it and we think we're so smart and so educated and hubris, we miss the mark. This is what's happening on a national scale. We're capturing sun in 120 days. I drove it. I see it. Go through Arkansas, go through California. It is uncovered. And we're not building those precious aggregates. For some of you who do not know what an aggregate is, it is the biological fusion of sand, silts, and clays to create habitat in the pore. It's those superbiotic glues, those substances. And it's dynamic, and it changes every 27 days. This is why we're going broke. Our farms and ranches are running on ancient sunlight, not new sunlight. I go around the world teaching that the plant and soil are one. They are not separate units. Because if I take the plant out, you have no biology. You have geology. This is where we're missing it, right here. Not enough living roots. This is very common. I'm going to show you places in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, same common pattern all over the globe. We are not leaking enough liquid sun into the system to feed this. I had to make sure you guys got awake. Look at that beauty that we got under the ground. That's what we got to feed. I was invited one time, I don't know where it was, I said, Ray, do you want to do a soil pit? No. What do you mean you don't want to do a soil pit on the field day workshop? Don't want to do it. I said, if I don't get the first 3 inches, I don't care about the next 10 feet. Why? Those organisms, the first 3 to 5 inches is where a majority of life is there. That biological skin. Dr. Lundgren and his professors taught me that 80% of all insects continuing their life cycles in that first 2-3 inches. I have no aggregates on the top. It will not infiltrate further down. And I'll never forget when I stood up and said, why are we not doing no-till when I went to Washington, D.C.? Why are we not doing covers? But yet we're paying for farmers to do tile drain. Interesting. The lady was upset. Why weren't we doing it in a systems approach? No aggregation, you're not going to not get a lot of the water to the tile drain anyway. What do you think breaks up the clays? Helps the sands to hold? It's this right here, folks. It's these incredible organisms on the top. The top part is called soil ecology. People break it down to soil microbiology. No, ecology. I want the organisms on the top, organisms inside. All of it together as a collective. They work together as a system. So if we spray it, we till it, we hurt it, we do not feed it, then we pay for it. Look at the power of biology. That is a mycorrhizae scarring the rock and bringing the mineral out. Fungi do that. Bacteria break rock down. Fungi break rock down. So what's the goal? I hope you hang around on this website because it's one of my favorite websites. It's so easy to communicate. It's called the Biomimicry Institute in Montana. Love it. I wish I would have gone to school there. You know what they do? They bring engineers, soil scientists, biologists, and they ask one little question to solve all their problems. Ask nature. Wow. What a beautiful concept. That's the right approach. Let me show you the power of biomimicry. Do you know how we learn to make Velcro? Cockleburrs. Do you know what the name of the inventor is? Billionaire. We learn how to fly. Biomimicry. Can you imagine if we would have said, Creator, how do we make our cities? Show us how to make the cities. How do we biomimic what you do? Our cities would look like this. You might even get me to live in the city if it looked like that. That's biomimicry, mimicking life in its beauty and its elegance. Have we asked our agriculture system, have we asked that one question? How are we mimic it? This is the way our cities look. And look what happens when we put more vegetation in our cities. Look at the temperature differences. They have shown when there's more trees, more beauty, more flowers, crime goes down. See, we were all embedded to live around the natural system. Now, I'm going to share this little video because it's frightening, because I want to show you what scientists are thinking of doing to solve, in a reductionist way, how to solve our climate. Let's listen to this little 3-4 minute video. And these are very intelligent people from MIT.
Many effects of climate change. Many researchers believe we have to intervene to prevent the worst from happening. To many people, it might sound a bit like playing God. Manipulating oceans, seeding clouds, creating a sunshade for the earth out of sulfur. These are just some of the ideas.
You can't tackle something of this scale, this scope, moving this fast. Just science.
Modifying our climate isn't hubris. In Iceland, researchers have already turned greenhouse gases into stone.
Then you can see some white spots, and that's the CO2 we injected into the kind of reservoir. That's the solution to our life. Definitely, in my opinion, this should be life on a large scale.
Scientists want to interfere with the Earth's processes. our planet. We're on our way to meet some researchers pursuing radical ideas.
I'm worried that climate change has become a kind of political abstraction, and people have lost track of the drive to protect the environment they love.
David Keith of Harvard University is one of the most
Harvard, yeah.
influential climate researchers. He believes it's high time we had an emergency plan. His idea is to create a sort of screen using dust particles, which would reflect the sun's rays, weakening or even halting global warming. But the first big pilot project, named ScopeX, keeps being postponed. There's still too much opposition.
Thank goodness.
What it is it something that might, in combination with emissions cuts, reduce the overall climate risk, maybe substantially. That's the evidence we have from climate models. So the question is, to what extent does solar geoengineering reduce climate risks that actually harm people and the environment, like extreme storms, extreme temperatures, sea level rise? Those are research questions that we don't know the answer to.
So-called solar radiation management is a gamble. Little research has been done on the risks, and yet it could be a last lifeline when it comes to curbing global warming. In practice, it would mean at least 10,000 aircraft in
10,000 airplanes.
every 2 years. The planes would release sulfur particles as evenly as possible at altitudes of more than 10 kilometers. These particles would reflect 1 or 2% of the incoming sunlight. The fact that dust in the stratosphere cools the planet has been shown by powerful volcanic eruptions, such as Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991. At that time, the global temperature dropped by 0.4 degrees.
How much did you have to put in there?
Well, it depends how much solar geoengineering we want. So there's no right answer to that. But the quantity we measured in something like 1 million tons a year.
Is that a lot?
Well, it's a lot and not a lot. We're putting billions of tons a year of CO2 in the atmosphere. So one of the ways to think about it is there's a 1,000,000-to-1 ratio between the amount of warming power of CO2 in the atmosphere and the amount of kind of cooling power of, say, sulfuric acid or some other material in the stratosphere. So 1 million tons is not technologically a lot. It doesn't cost a lot. But it's a real direct perturbation to the environment.
Doesn't that tell us also that the stratosphere is just a place you should not interfere because it's...
How many like the idea? Raise your hand. This is reductionist to the max. If you want to know what the climate issue is, please go to YouTube and listen to this man, Walter Yenning. This man was very helpful. And he ties in the plant and the soil and building the carbon sponge. This is how we can fix it. So when you articulate, please, so that you can talk to people that you hope, because if we don't speak out, if we don't talk about something as practical as doing this, why don't we just mimic the forest and the prairie? They're covered 24/7, have animals in it. The earth will heal itself and create that living skin. Another book that helps me a lot to understand ecology, in fact, Dr. Elton, the father of ecology, said one of the most books that has huge amounts of ecology in it is the ancient scriptures. Biomimicry has been around for a long time. Ask of the beasts. The system's been asking you, watch me, mimic me, look at it, tend to it, observe it, mimic it. Don't genetically splice it, control it, force it, and manipulate it. Look at the mixes that we started doing on a national and global scale. The architecture of the tropical forest, the architecture of the forest, of the prairies, different lengths, widths, plants captioned architecture. Mimicking it does not have to be the same plants. And guess what happens when you do this? Capture sun, feed carbon, build aggregates, get water cycling, get nutrient cycling, and then the habitat and the insects and the wildlife come back. Beautiful. So how do we carry this out? One day my daughter had said to me, Dad, you talk nothing about soil health, but you never ever talk about what I do. She was a military officer in logistics. So I said, okay, daughter. So I went and started looking on logistics, and I found something fascinating. When Iraq war happened and the military came in, they had a beautiful strategy, the overall plan. That's strategy. Logistics, you can follow the soil health principles, you can see the big strategy. Logistics is this. If you cannot get bullets and toilet paper to the men, you lose the war. If you do not get your cover crop ordered long ahead of time, do not get it into the ground, you logistically failed, you still lost the war. Why? You were not committed. You did not move the animals frequently enough. You didn't move them. That's logistics. This is how some producers are how they're fulfilling those logistics. When I showed that picture in front of a bunch of 1,000 organic producers, I said, what is that? And they all yelled, it's a cancer machine. And I said, you know what that cancer machine does? It drops cover crop seed on standing corn. And the organic, I love organic people. They go, whoa. They were excited. They're one of the easiest to teach regenerative agriculture. They're all about it. They've been thinking for years that way. They just dismissed tillage. But they're learning. Now look at Rick Clark. We know the way he's doing it. This is growing. We're doing this in Venezuela now. This is going to spread. It's spreading all over the world. What's amazing, Rick says in the Common Ground movie, that he saved $2 million a year in reduced inputs on 7,000 acres. No more fertilizer, no more chemical, no more pesticide, nothing. Wow, that really helps the bottom ground, the bottom economically. Look at Tennessee. We're doing that in Tennessee. No roller. That was planted and it helped roll that cover crop just with the planter. Look at that. The reason I'm showing you now, I'm going to show you places all over the world, and I'm going to take you around the world real quick, how farmers are doing this. Planting right directly. Look at the skin. I call it skin because it's alive, it's dynamic, it's where the living life lives. And weed suppression is phenomenal. We're doing that on tomatoes. We're doing this on pumpkins. We're doing this on cotton. We're spreading it all over the world. Look at this excellent video. Sometimes I'm glad I hang out on Facebook because I try to grab Russell Hendricks and some of these regenerative farmers. Look at Lucas Griswold. I know Lucas really well. His son must have posted this. It was beautiful. Is that a pretty good yield for a week, guys? 130? Not bad, huh? This was really cool about it. Look at it. You know what? He's got soybean going right next to there. Doesn't that make you feel good, Lauren? Please, folks, tomorrow you make sure you listen to this young man if you never heard. How many of you have not heard Russell Hendricks speak? You make sure you go listen to him speak. He's probably one of the best producers I know in nutrient management in the United States. I'm going to tell you a quick story about Russell. I remember he was going for this yield contest, and I said, Russell, don't do it. I got to eat crow. I'm the crow eater. I said, Russell, don't do this because people think yield. We already have problems with farmers. Yield, yield, yield. They already worship at that temple. We don't need that. When Russell won the yield contest in 2023, you know what he did? And I'm glad I ate. I even put a little Tabasco sauce with my crow. So proud of him. He proved no-till works. He proved cover crops work. He also proved the Haney test works. You know how much flack we have gotten over those three things in the last 40 years? No till, no yield. You know what the saddest part? some of the people in the regenerative circle were not happy for Russell. And they said, he still uses chemicals. I was very upset. Cannibalizing our own. And I'm so proud of Russell and how much he serves and how much he gives to many people. And he gives it for free. That really bothered me. This is how soils look without covers. That's 50-year no-till on the left. 3 years of covers. Change that whole soil. And you know what the National No-Till Conference, and I'm glad you're recording this because I want them to hear it, because last year they asked me to come to be the teacher of the year. I didn't deserve. I said, okay, I'll go under one condition. I get to speak to the whole group. And guess what happened? Boy, did I get it. I was the last speaker at 7 o'clock at night before a 2-hour break, before dinner. And Russell told me, well, maybe you might get 50, might get 30. Over 350 to 400 showed up. And I ripped into the conference because there was a speaker saying the best way to get rid of stratification is to plow it under. Why don't you look at the picture on the right where it tells you use, life, they'll mix it. You know what I love about life? I don't have to put diesel in it. They don't complain. They show up to work on time. This is what happens when we do not have aggregation. So let me take you to Venezuela. 3 inches of rain, that's how Venezuela looked. Is it affecting the climate? Yes. That man, Dr. Andres Kowalski, had me come all the way to Venezuela. He has the Guinness World Record of watching Kiss the Ground 80 times. I said, Andres, you have a problem. I have only watched myself twice. I can't handle it. He's got a PhD from Florida, speaks fluent English in animal science. Now he's become a soil health guru. I had a special visa to come into Venezuela because Venezuela does not have a visa process for Americans because there is no embassy in Venezuela. They had me come in, and guess what? Gabriela Jimenez, who is the Ministry of Biology and Technology, got me diplomatic status, so when I entered Venezuela, I didn't even have to go through the check like everybody else. Why? Because they want to learn regenerative ag. Do you know what their motto is of their biological ministry? We promote life. No GMOs allowed. Phenomenal. Those two are going to change Venezuela. Why? They get no government help. Let me take you to Guatemala. Kiss the ground again. Herman Jensen, the owner of a big 50,000 acre sugarcane, called me and says, Ray, we need help. Our inputs are $10 million a year. Fertilizers and chemicals. Can you come and help us and regenerate the first, that I think, going to be sugar plantation so we can go regenerative? I'm going to tell you something real quick. I did not want to go. First, I didn't want to work in an industrial mag model because that's what I was thinking, because I wanted farms to be smaller. That was my dream. That's my farm-utopian dream of the next 100 years, so that I get more people on the land. And then the second day after I met this man, couldn't help falling in love with the groups, the whole, they treated me so wonderful. And I tell you, sometimes if you have contemplation and you have no clear thinking, go take a shower and get the cold water in your think process. And I started to realize, you know what I realized? Ray, it is not my goal to make farms smaller. My goal is to take people where they're at, their size, where they're at, and move them down the regenerative process. My job is to love them, take their context and help them. So let me tell you what happened. Herman, so I came twice. And I'm going to tell you, I hadn't used my Spanish in 40 years. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala. It was a very emotional trip for me because I go back to the village that I saw. And my beautiful Guatemala has been decimated. A lot of the tropical forests are being taken down. But this beautiful beacon of a man right in the center, what he had me do, they have 5,000 staff, 80 agronomists. I took a miniature rain simulator. These are all college-educated agronomists, 80 of them. I have a saying, when I grew up in northern New Mexico, they told us, you go to a bar, don't bring a knife, bring a bazooka. I brought a bazooka. Now, that's too old of a term. I brought Abrams tank, the rain simulator. When they saw that rain simulator, it changed everything. Then I could spend 2 days, my second trip, and we went to go see them, biodiversity. They get it now. It had to be from somebody outside. And let me tell you, the first time I did my Spanish, it was so bad. They told me, Ray, why don't you speak English? Now I can speak fluently now. I came back, it's like riding a bike, but it was painful. Now I got Dr. Ademir Caligari. By the way, that person, Jay, remember Ademir? Ademir, the guy in the blue, is the one that got us started. I flew all the way to Brazil to spend a week with that man because I was getting ready to go learn about the tropical systems. He helped Jay and Gabe started, and Gabe and Jay learned about multi-species through them. Am I correct, Jay? Then he taught me. Now guess what? There are no-tilling in Brazil, cover crop mixes in the sugarcane. After 2 visits, and Jensen, he's an agronomist too, and he's a part owner. One day the agronomist said, look at the left. It says, we sprayed. He goes, no, that's not what I want. I want you to let the weeds grow between the sugarcane. And look at that beautiful cover. Biological memory came back right between the sugarcane. It does not compete with the sugarcane. That one move saved them $200,000 on a small section of the farm. We're going to reduce herbicides by 80% in that farm in the next 5 years. Here's another thing when the second visit I came. This land, 90% of it's rented. It's not owned by him. It is rented ground. Land is expensive in Guatemala. Do you know what they did in the second trip when I came? They're planting a buffer strip all through the canals everywhere. And they're going to try and bring honey into the operation. We're trying to bring about grazing. And thank God for Rick Haney test. Because with Rick's test, doing nothing, just take 20% off the top, we can save him over $1 million on fertilizer. Thank you, Rick Haney, for creating a test, the Biomimicry. Yay, Rick! Woo! And we got so much crap over that test. You guys don't realize the battle we fought for that test. Thank you, farmers, for not listening. We're building covers everywhere. We're going to use biologicals. We're going to do intercropping. We're going to use Rick's test. And we're going to reduce. And in 5 years, we're going to take 60 to 80% away with their costs. But you know why? Soil health is not just for the States. It's for the world. I have been told, people say, Ray, you stay here. We got plenty of work to do. No, this goes to Africa. It goes to Asia. It goes to everywhere. It's our planet. It's our people. Las Cruces. Look at that. I went to college in Las Cruces. This is what I was taught in college. Keep the pecans butt naked. Woo! Well, Russell got like that one. Was it Russell? Yeah, I should have known. Why did they tell me? Competition, going to steal water. This is what we're doing now. Josh Bowman, rolling covers, grazing sheep under the pecan orchards, going contrary to what the university taught me. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to go with animal integration. Then Liz gave me a mandate. How can we spread the word? So bear with me another 20 minutes, about 15, 20 minutes. Let's go quick. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had emotional, traumatic experiences through all this whole journey that just changed my life all the time. And one of the things I can tell you, if you follow the patterns of nature and test every science that comes out, this is the way I question science now. If it does not glorify the creation, glorify the human body, if it does not do biomimicry, go away. I have no time for you. Everything I question, from vaccines to everything, every science. If it does not glorify the body or the creation, go away. I have no time. Look at the pattern here for grazing. First, people tell us, well, Ray, the cows are the problem. They're farting amok. And I go, really? Because you remember, I get to talk to all kinds of groups. I want to educate them, not fight them. Bring them to us so we can teach them. That is a picture of the 1950s of the elephants herds. That's a lot of animals. What's the AUM on that baby? They're sucking and farting like amazement. And yet we don't even include our 7 billion people that are doing the same thing. How ridiculous is our thought process? Look at this when you have an operator using biomimicry. Amazing what we can do. Now, my last part of my journey. I grew up in the desert. Grew up in a valley right next to the Rockies. Went to college in the desert, the Chihuahuan Desert, one of the largest deserts in North America. I'm going to share an experience with you that changed my life. I literally had tears when I saw this, because it's emotionally impacted me, because it changed my life. I've had many of those experiences, and you're part of those experiences when you come and tell me, Ray, I love to farm now. Alejandro Carrillos, I was invited to go to his ranch. I've been there 4 times, hoping to go again. 600 cow-calf operation. Let's give you a perspective of hot. It is hot. Do not visit him in the summer. You will die. And I was there one summer, and it was brutal. He doesn't get more than 10 to 12 to 13 inches of rain the whole year. And he gets it all in 3 months. Look at the soil temperatures of 153 degrees. Give you perspective, I was born in 1961. That is the college, the Jornada station in Las Cruces. I was born that year. When I went to college, this is the way it looked. All of New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, California, Kansas, the Panhandle looks like that. Our whole country looks like that. Half our country is becoming desertified. If you drive from Albuquerque to New Mexico, is the 5th largest state. From Albuquerque to Las Cruces is 4 hours of seeing that. When you listen to the ancient scribes of the priests, they said that whole place was a prairie. My range science professor says you can't change that. Those plants are allelopathic, they are invasives, they will never go back again. We just need to accept it. Alejandro Carrillo says, well, mine did not read the textbook. Alejandro changed that, how? Fencing system, infrastructure. He also was impacted by Alan Savory. He too was mentored by Jesus Almeida. All of us have something in common. Gabe, all of them, Alan Savory. The man that's eviscerated and mocked and laughed at. Watering system, fencing system does not have to be complex. One hot wire. Watering systems they designed with no cost share, no help from the government. I actually had somebody say to me, well, yeah, Ray, Alejandro does this because he's rich. He's got 30,000 acres. I said, whoa, you really think so? How come you think he has to go on the speaking circuit with me? If ranching is so lucrative and so wealthy. Besides, he loves to teach, and he cares about the planet. He is not wealthy by no means. His tractor is not even a four-wheel drive. It's an old, beat-up tractor. Don't tell me he's rich. How does he do it? He moves the cows 800 times a year. 2 cowboys. When we went there in October, we took aerial videos, and we showed how they moved the animals with 2 cowboys. Amazing. 800 times a year. Of course, I'm always looking for research papers. I'm trying to wrap my mind, what is Alejandro doing? There's a great paper called Mobile Link Organisms and Ecosystem Functioning, Implications for Ecosystem Resilience and Management. You can find it free. Take a picture because that's all you're going to get. It's a great paper. So how's the thought process? You take one ecosystem area of the ranch, one patch, one area, where it's a little healthier. You move the animals from one area to the unhealthy area during the rainy season, moving them back and forth, landscaping them. And what does the cows carry with them? Seed. They got it in their poop, they got it under their hoofs, they got it under the skin, and a biological transformation breaking the crust. See, when soils do not have carbon and do not have life, they become like rock. And look what happened. Look at this picture on the mountain. And Alejandro says, I didn't get really serious until the last 6 years. Look what happened by doing and mimicking biomimicry and mimicking the buffalo. That's his ranch. And it was never planted. Same time, same rain event, next ranch. What's different? The mindset. Invasives are dying. We have spent millions of dollars in this country to kill mesquite and creosote. If we bring the grasses and get the ecosystem, do you know what's killing the mesquite? The termites. Once you bring life, it'll self-heal, self-organize, self-regulate. Some of the best livestock people is in Mexico, I'm convinced. There's some of them amazing. So Africa to me also. This is a mine owned by a rancher. He wanted to reclaim that. I'm just blown away. You mean a rancher that cares about his land like that? About the mine that they just stripped? Mycorrhizal spores, spread it all over, brought the cows, and look what happened. Rock. You know, I was blown away. Not enough. How many ranchers would buy this ranch? Raise your hand. I didn't think so. They bought that ranch, and look what happens with cows. Sand, sand, sand. And guess what followed? The rains. Alejandro has a picture on the left. On the left side is his ranch. On the other side is the ranch. That is a snap picture of his iPhone capturing the rain coming over his ranch. Please, if you ever find this man's books, Masanobu Fukuoka, buy every book that man writes. That man taught me so much about ecology. It was in the American desert that I suddenly realized that the rain does not fall from the heavens, it comes from the ground. Desert formation is not due to the absence of rain, but the rain ceases to fall because the vegetation has disappeared. Ladies and gentlemen, I argue that our planet can no longer balance itself. All we do is cover it. I never thought I would get to talk to Secretary Vilsack. Me, a lonely little government employee down the bottom. If it wasn't for the kiss the ground, I got to see him in Zoom meeting. And I asked Mr. Vilsack, please, I only ask for one thing, because the government's not good at doing much. They can do one thing and concentrate it. One thing. Cover the land. Not even no-till. Not even get off the chemicals. We can do one thing right now. Cover the land. Would make a huge change in our planet, in our lives. Some people say, but Ray, we can't do this. How about the small-scale farmer? Tom Middlechick, 5 acres, 2 cows. The principles apply everywhere. And then I want to dispel the biggest lie ever told, and I believed it. And maybe it was true at one time, but it's a big fat lie now. We have to feed the world. No, we don't. We need to teach the world to feed themselves. I was taught in the Peace Corps, if I give a man a fish, I feed him for one day. Chinese proverb. But if I teach him how to fish, I can feed him for a lifetime. Please go into Urban Homestead. Darvis family grows 6,000 pounds of organic vegetables on 1/10 of an acre in Pasadena. They make $40,000 on 1/10 of an acre. We can feed the world, no problem. And we don't have to worry about the population going down, because many scientists are showing now the demographics of the world is going down. We're not having enough kids. China has a demographic collapse. Germany, all over the world, we're losing population at a large rate. Young people do not want to have family, do not want to have kids. They see no hope. So, let me skip here. And remember I was telling you, remember I told you about relationship and connectedness? This farmer on the left has no relationship with the soil. The farmer on the right is understanding it's alive, relationship. The producers on the left here, and please, I work with producers and I have a lot of love and respect. Please understand that the concentration camp on the left, we pushed it on the farmers, we as a collective. The world wanted cheap food. Universities said, get bigger, get bigger. NRCS, get bigger, get bigger, get bigger. Please understand where this came from. All of us did this. Nobody wants to work on the farm and ranch. The one on the left, the pig and the person, do they really have a relationship? Versus the pig on the right. The pig on the right brings $1,000 a hog. The pig on the left, 130 if you're lucky. 80. People are demanding high quality food. Young people no longer want to buy hamburger because it comes from the left. My job is to help the producer in the left to move in a positive direction. And this is why stuff like the Impossible Burger took hold for a while. If you watch Common Ground, boy, they beat up on the Impossible Burger. It looks impossibly yucky. I've had one just to see how it felt. Now let me show you what one rain simulator can do in western Kansas and Garden City. Operation that has thousands of animals. Watch the rain simulator. Now they are moving the cows out of the feedlot, and guess what they're doing? They're grazing it on the incredible milo, and they're putting in-soil algae. And this operation, cows are gaining 2.1 to 3 pounds a day grazing under the pivot. Cut their fertilizer by 30%. The other one here, they put 20 tons of manure, put a little bit of fertilizer, got 1.5 more tons spraying the algae on it, and they are stoked. About 3,000 for the pivot. This one, treated the same way, but they used another type of biological and more fertilizer. Did not do as well in the yield. And so the one, I think I got confused here. The first one, this one did regular chemical synthetic fertilizer, 90 more synthetics, cost them a lot more, did not do as well. So here's the point. Biology, and they're letting the cattle graze. 2.81 pounds, 3 pounds a day, all because they saw the rain simulator and they got 1 day of soil health school. Wow. Do you know that one time I had requested, when I was working in NRCS, I said, if we give farmers cost share, why can't they come to a soil health school? I brought it up to the headquarters. I said, if we're giving money for CRP, if we're giving any money, cost share, why should the American people not demand that you come and learn soil health? How do you think that went? Ladies and gentlemen, look at our new boss. Almost wrapping up. Got a couple of more slides and I'm done. Look at your new boss. Millennials, 70% read labels. They want to know where their food's coming from. And it's not changing. Why do you think everybody's pushing organic recertification, regen certification? People want to know where their food is coming. My wife says, I want to see. I want to be guaranteed that I'm paying this money because my wife has had a chronic immune system disease for 6 years. And the only thing is bringing her back by the grace of God, God himself, and nutrition and avoiding processed food. Let thy food be thy medicine. Get this book called What Your Food Ate by David Montgomery. Take a picture of it real quick. David does a great job. Okay? Now let's zoom along and we're going to wrap it up. Now, how do we fix this? I already told you 4 things we must do. I already said that. In fact, one of the things we have to understand, we have to change the mindset. It's all here. All of us have been imbibed by reductionist science. We do not know how to look. Wisdom, we have not used the beautiful designed wisdom every day. We have not looked at it. So the biggest struggle we have right here is this. I'm going to show you this little cartoon. This is why regenerative agriculture is really tough to promote in the local community. It's called social conditioning. We've all been social conditioned in school, in church, in the university. We've been social conditioned. If you do not follow this way, you will get beaten. You are not following the norm. Let's look at the design of social conditioning. Put it a little louder.
Every time a monkey went up a ladder, the scientists soaked the rest of the monkeys with cold water.
volume.
After a while, every time a monkey went up the ladder, the others beat up the one on the ladder. After some time, no monkey dared go up the ladder, regardless of the temptation. Scientists then decided to substitute one of the monkeys. The first thing this new monkey did was go up the ladder. Immediately, the other monkeys beat him up. After several beatings, the new...
Doesn't it sound familiar? When you went to no-till, what did the neighbors think? You're an idiot. We're going to beat you. You started doing covers. You got beaten by the neighbors. You went organic. You're an idiot. What are you doing? You took the vaccine or you didn't take the vaccine. Social conditioning. They beat you one way or the other to submit. Sound familiar? Social conditioning? I told you 4 things. Understand the connectedness, the power of the life. So is alive. Always know the goal. The goal is not cover crops. The goal is not no-till. The goal is not adaptive grazing. The goal is to emulate the natural system. She is your goal. She is your standard. The last one. This is a journey for the rest of your life. It is a transformation of your heart and mind. It is a moral issue. I broke the principles down into 4 things. We had 6 principles. Took it down to 4 because I can't remember. I only got 5 fingers. Take it simple. Simple 1. Diversity, diversity, diversity of insects, animals. Diversity, diversity. The plants create their own skin. They create their own cover. Diversity. Nature's only asking you, feed me with living plants and animals. Number 2, understand your context ecologically, culturally, socially, spiritually. And we leave the spiritual because we don't want to talk about it. Cannot separate it. For the Native Americans, the land is spiritual. For the Amish, it's spiritual. For Christians who profess Christ, it's spiritual. You know, when I went from NRCS, you know what they taught me? I'll just give you a plan, talk to you like you're just, and download information, data. It doesn't work that way. You need to understand their context. You need to have a relationship with that person. The last one, careful with physical, biological, and disturbance. And the last one, build community. Do not do this by yourself. Work in the relationship. Now I'm going to show you this last little video and we're done. Promise. You're probably going. Now, how do we talk? There's 2 groups of people now that I see happening. It's called the elite technocrats and the lonely, disconnected masses. After COVID, people became very lonely and very disconnected. And too much media has transformed our country into a country I did not like seeing. And this great book called Dr. Mathis Desmet, I guess, it's called Technocrat Totalitarianism. And he said the best way to address this is one thing. He's writing a new book called Truth Speech. Speaking the truth in love and communicating and reaching out and talking to people, building relationship back. We can transform our country and control the narrative. The last book, I thought it was very fascinating because I was becoming very, very tribal. Either it was the Republican tribe or the Democrat tribe. I realized that both tribes are wrong. It was reading this book called Mirror the Church, where this country of Uganda was supposed to be 80% Christians. And over 800,000 people killed and butchered themselves with machetes because somebody told them they were different, a different tribe. I was becoming very tribal. I don't care about the organic tribe. the regenerative tribe, the conventional tribe. I do not care. I care about you, that you understand, and whatever you want to be, that's what I care about. Last little video I'm going to leave you with, because people say, can we make a difference? But Ray, we're going against the big machine. We're going against the industrial military complex, the industrial farm complex, the industrial pharma complex. How can one person make a difference? Let's see what this man did, one person in India, to clean up a beach that was so contaminated. One person.
When you're young and somebody shows you the ocean, there's a grin, there's a smile, there's a happiness in your head and your eyes, and that's exactly what I experienced as a child. I've played here, I've swum in this water. The way India functioned pre-92.
Doesn't let me control it.
So you had no malls, you had no theaters.
Now it's too loud. I can't control it here.
The way India functions now is different. Now you have choices. You don't have to carry your bag. Go to a mall, pick up, get so much plastic. Wherever people have chosen life of convenience and comfort, these problems have erupted. We are heading for a disaster zone. In fact, there's a study by World Economic Forum which predicts that there will be more plastic in the ocean by weight than fish by 2050. That's a scary prediction. It was devastating for me, and then I thought something must be done. I need to react now. Enough of seeing and watching. So then I took the step of starting to clean. As a human being, when you live on a planet, you are here on Earth, you have a limited time and space to live in, limited resources. We must do it responsibly. We all love environment, we say so. We are patriotic, love my country, love my country. To my mind, when you say you love, then you put something in motion. For me, cleaning was exactly like, if you're a religious person, you pray to your God, you pray to Allah, you go to mandir, or you go to church. Exactly for me. 2-3 weeks I worked all alone. And you have to show your grit then, your dedication, even if you're alone. So some people said, ये कभी नहीं होने वाला. आप उठाओगे समुद्र फेंकेगा, आप उठाओगे समुद्र फेंकेगा. For a lawyer to pick up garbage is unusual. That's the reaction I would get. Sir, you have to pay. We don't have a sense of belonging, neither to ourselves, neither to our country, neither to our oceans, neither to environment. It's only on a tip of a tongue. You know, the problem with us is we think that some law will come one day and it will clean the plastic of the world. Some policy will come, some man will come, some Superman will come from the sky to do. No. It pains me. I don't know how the ocean will get clear. There's a war I've taken on. I must continue my love and passion. I provoked that in my volunteers. They saw that purpose. They saw that fire. They saw that something is going to be happening in the future. It touched them. UN environment people were watching me what's going on because it's unusual. And then finally, December 3rd, 2016, they awarded me with an accolade called Champion of Earth. I'm the first Indian to get it. With these praises, or people saying great work, or people who are in public life, it puts a more enormous responsibility on you. But my journey will continue, with or without that. I always say small steps, big impact. Start with yourself. The biggest awareness comes by your action and not by your words. Does the government tell you how to raise a kid? Does the government tell you how to fall in love? Did Mahatma Gandhi look for anything when he was fighting for independence? So I have not come here to become a saint. I have come with a very selfish need of mine to protect my planet. At workplace, don't you do that? Because you are going to get a check at the end of the month. The checks give you the kick in your head. That kick hasn't happened with us with our love for your country and for environment. These young kids who are between the age of 8 to 22, I love them. I am a firm believer, and they are our leaders, and they will show us the way. See, imagine 22 million people in Mumbai, 2 hands coming out. Come out for 2 hours. In whichever area you are, near the lake, river, oceanfront roads, I am emotionally charged, tears roll down my cheeks. there's a deep sense of connect. I tell people approach it in the society and just don't talk to me. Enough of this talking. Do, come on. People will call you nerd, people call you weird, people will find you mad, which I was labeled initially. But that's a path you have to choose. And I must thank GBCI for the excellent work they do. Our Earth needs you. We all need you. All stakeholders will have to work together, and we all want to become like a big family for protecting the ocean, making sure the environment is in the right hand.
That one person moved the whole community, 9,000 tons of trash. It was amazing. There's no more talk. Let's go love. Love leads to action. I'm going to ask a favor from all of you. Please, let's all stand up, please. Stand up, please. I'm going to start off our conference, and I'm asking you that we all bow in prayer and ask God to help us change our country and to take the trash that we're going to get from people, that we're going to clean it, and that we're going to share, and we're going to help with love and to teach all people to heal our planet. Because I'm telling you right now, our country is hurting. There's a lot of farmers that are suffering, that are barely making it because of the debt and the interest rates. Let's start off this beautiful day of regeneration because every one of you is needed to help. You're that one person that we're going to change because people watch you. They watch you. And please, let's go back with this reverence to heal God's planet into the community. Let's bow our head, please. Our gracious God, our loving Father, we're so sorry we destroyed your planet and disrespected you and dishonored you. But give us strength. You're a very forgiving, very kind God. That you empower us to love and to share, even with people that don't love us or don't care for us, but that we can communicate with them and share and give them hope. You are so gracious. You're an amazing God. The elegance, what you created is so awesome. We live and move and have our being because of you. And please bless everybody in this room and empower them in their hearts and minds as we go back to the community. And we help be part of that change. Thank you. In your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. This was a great start for 2024. And let's give every one of you a hand for the future. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome.